The former president was on Truth Social over the weekend and made speeches as well. And he referred to how there were like 13 or 14,000 convicted murderers in the country. When I saw that number, I thought, how is that possible? Well, as it turns out, a lot of the people have been in the country for decades.
So the data in the letter is being misinterpreted. The data goes back decades. It includes individuals who entered the country over the past 40 years, the vast majority whose custody determination was made long before Biden took over.
All right, friends, brace yourselves. But the Fox propaganda network appeared to publicly admit that they've been accidentally spreading misinformation and they wanted to correct the record. Kinda. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we got a couple of clips to play here. But before I do, I want to set the stage for what we're talking about. And it really, unfortunately, as these things often do on the right, begins with Donald Trump. So Donald Trump recently made a series of truths, social media posts. Kamala should immediately cancel her news conference because it was just revealed that 13,000 convicted murderers entered our country during her 3.5-year period as borders are. Also currently in our country because of her are 15,800 migrants convicted of rape and sexual assault. Quote, we handed this administration the most secure border of our lifetime. Tom Homan, former ICE director. Couple of things before we move on to the clips, just to set the stage for this. Obviously, the predicate for what we're talking about is that figure, the 13,000 convicted murderers, and we've done some videos on this. It's relevant to what's to come. I should say, while we're on this truth from Donald Trump, that Donald Trump himself has been found liable for defamation and sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll, sexual abuse. And the presiding judge clarified in subsequent hearings that when the jury found Donald Trump liable for sexual abuse and defamation of E. Jean Carroll, what they meant was he raped her. So just pointing that out there. Also, I'll point out that Tom Homan, whom Donald Trump is citing as a major contributor to Project 2025, a thing that Donald Trump insists he has nothing to do with. But he constantly gives shout outs to people from his administration and campaign who are intimately involved with it, kind of undercutting his own message. Also, if you just look at his Truth Social posts or the Twitter account, which simply regurgitates his Truth Social posts, Donald J. Trump posts from his Truth Social, and you look up 13,000, you'll see multiple instances of him citing these statistics and, of course, lying about them. We'll get into other examples, but courtesy of Decoding Fox News, which is another account you should follow because she watches Fox News, so you don't have to, and really so I don't have to either. She's superhuman. She put together this clip from Fox and Friends, and all four of the people here are Trump supporters to varying degrees, including Steve Doocy, the man who's going to be talking here, even though he's seen as the least MAGA of the four. Well, after days upon days upon days upon days of peddling this right-wing disinformation, they felt the need to correct the record. So here is Fox and Friends admitting that the information they've been putting out has been misinterpreted, misrepresented, and actually, they've been the ones doing it.
We've been talking about those numbers for a while. The former president was on Truth Social over the weekend and made speeches as well. And he referred to how there were like 13 or 14,000 convicted murderers in the country. And that got some pushback from the Department of Homeland Security in the last 24 hours. But we want to tell you a little about these non-detained, non-citizen convicted criminals. These are people who were convicted of homicide, who are or were currently are in the United States. As you can see right there, according to ICE, the number is 13,000 convicted of homicide, 15,000 convicted of sexual assault. The total illegal criminals in the United States is at 425,000.
Convicted of crimes.
Right, exactly. So here, when I saw that number, I thought, how is that possible? Well, as it turns out, a lot of the people have been in the country for decades. And a lot of the people who were convicted of murder committed it here in the United States. The problem is, because they're still in the United States, is a lot of them are from countries where it's like, okay, person is from Russia. We're going to send him back to Russia. Oh, Russia won't take him. They're stuck here. And so that's why that is such a big, jaw-dropping number.
So it took over decades. And the numbers are stunning, but it happened over decades. So the DHS wanted to qualify it after they gave Congressman Gonzalez this information on Friday. So the data in the letter is being misinterpreted. The data goes back decades. It includes individuals who entered the country over the past 40 years, the vast majority whose custody determination was made long before Biden took over. It also includes many who are under the jurisdiction of currently incarcerated federal local partners.
So again, definitely follow Decoding Fox News on social media because she put this together. That is, sadly, it is stunning that they actually corrected the record. Now, what they don't tell you explicitly is that they were the ones and their network also contributed immensely to this disinformation because, of course, Donald Trump, MAGA Fox News hosts, MAGA Republicans are peddling the lie that those staggering statistics are exclusively the responsibility of the Biden-Harris administration, when in fact, the vast majority of those migrants in question entered the country under previous administrations, including, you guessed it, the Trump administration. So, of course, this lie has already proliferated. And I imagine many people who find this fact check inconvenient will just accuse Fox of being you're rhinos. Right? It's not going to deter Trump, certainly. But it's important to remember that these bad faith MAGA Republicans lied to your face. Just lied to you stupidly. And I love, speaking of faces, you could see it, Lawrence Jones and Brian Kilmeade and Ainsley Earhart, while Steve Doocy was talking, like they were looking away and, making faces because they were aware that they've contributed immensely to this mess. But doesn't seem that everybody at Fox News got that memo. They should have tuned into Fox and Friends because Harris Faulkner, another pro-Trump MAGA Republican in the employ of Fox News, still seemed to suggest that these migrants appeared on President Biden's watch and not over the course of 40 years, the vast majority of them being under previous administrations, again, including Trump. So just want to play you this clip of Harris Faulkner apparently not getting the memo.
Are taking over Aurora, Colorado and New York City. Why isn't she fighting those gangs right now as vice president where she has federal power? Yeah. It's like, I don't want to hear anecdotes about California. What about the here and now? Because in some places it is a disaster.
Yep. In January 2023, CBP-1 app was created. We've learned a lot about it since then. In August, the DHS gave information to the Judiciary Committee, I'm sure unwillingly, that 3 men from Tajikistan were arrested with ties to ISIS, and they got here because of the CBP-1 app. So that's what we learned in August. What did we learn yesterday? An IG report came out about individuals who are dangerous to this country who might have gotten in without IDs. Oh, wait, well, at the very end of that report, they talked about redactions on the CBP-1 app in an investigation conducted by TSA as to how many dangerous people came to this country on the CBP-1 app. It's all been redacted. It's a massive cover-up. In my view, the CBP-1 app is one big disaster.
That is amazing. So that number I gave before, those 425,000 plus that have come in, that we learned about this week, right about the time that Kamala Harris was leaving the border. So I guess she didn't get asked about that, but you can't convince me she didn't already know that there's a strong possibility, but we don't know because the report is so heavily redacted that those would have been aided by, if not wholeheartedly brought on by, the CBP-1 app access that those people
Exactly.
have.
The risk were looked into.
You mean the vast majority of whom were here before this administration would somehow have been aided by an app that was created during this administration to enter the country legally under asylum? Doesn't make much sense, Harris. Maybe you should watch Fox and Friends. It's the first time I've actually recommended someone watch Fox and Friends. Of course, the first time that I'm aware of that somebody on Fox and Friends said something true and worth watching. Did you see what they do? Fox is a purveyor of this. As a matter of fact, Media Matters did a recent report on this. It's a couple of days old. Fox misrepresented ICE data on immigration and crime in over 50 segments. 85% of Fox segments about the immigrations and custom enforcement statistics included misrepresentations of the data even after multiple Fox personalities attempted to debunk the falsehoods. Since September 27th, when GOP Representative Tony Gonzalez released data on immigration and crime, he requested from ICE, Fox has misrepresented the meaning of the statistics over and over. In 53 of 62 segments about the data, or 85%, Fox spun the information to promote a number of falsehoods about immigration and crime in the United States. And they point out that our girl Jessica Tarlov was one of two that they're aware of to try to debunk this notion that somehow all these people are like running rampant in the United States, and that they entered the day after Joe Biden took office, when in fact, the vast majority of them entered under the Trump administration, the Obama administration, the Bush administration, so on and so forth, over a span of 40 years. And most of them have or are serving time in prison for crimes that they committed in the United States. It's just that they're not being detained by ICE. That's why they're on that list. They may be detained or serving time as we speak. They may be in the hands of law enforcement. As we speak, they're just not in the hands of ICE. But again, all that nuance, all those facts eluded the MAGA Republicans at the Fox Propaganda Network. So yeah, I don't know if because Steve Doocy had an attack of conscience, I don't know if perhaps Fox just got served with a lawsuit or something, and that's why they felt the need to kind of correct the record, because that's a sort of journalistic integrity you don't see, certainly not from that corner of Fox. I don't know what the motivation was, but they felt the need to say, actually, we've been putting this stuff out, and actually, the data's been misrepresented. Actually, most of this happened before Joe Biden and Kamala Harris took office, and so be interesting to see what the motivation was. But there you go. You have a couple of visibly upset, visibly uncomfortable Fox News hosts sheepishly correcting the record that they helped make incorrect in the first place. So interesting stuff. In the meantime, of course, let me know what you think in the comments.